Thousands of pastors and other religious leaders vowing civil disobedience if the Supreme Court strikes a pro-same-sex marriage ruling, and if that ruling is ever used to tell them that they must perform same-sex marriages. Just days ago, Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed the Pastor Protection Act, which allows clergy members to refuse to conduct same-sex marriages if that would force them to violate their religious convictions. It's sparking an interesting conversation. Let's bring in syndicated columnist and Fox News contributor Cal Thomas. Good to see you today.
Thank you.
Okay, so we had this ad, full-page ad, talking about these folks saying they're urging the court not to move forward with same-sex marriage as a constitutional, nationwide recognized right. And they say if the day ever comes that they're told they have to endorse it in any way, they won't do it. They'll risk fines, then they'll go to jail.
I think there's legitimate concern about this, Shannon. When you look at countries like England and Canada, which have passed laws under their various human rights acts prohibiting preachers from preaching about homosexuality and some of these other moral and social issues, and they can be fined, in some cases, in extreme cases, put in prison. Look, even during the anti-slavery movement and even the pro-slavery movement in the South in the United States government didn't come in and try to keep pastors from preaching either for or against slavery. They let them have freedom of speech. You hear a lot from the left about the separation of church and state. A lot of evangelicals would be happy if the state got back on its side of the line.
Yeah, well, one of the first reactions I saw to this ad was from a group who said it's nothing but hate, that these people are fear-mongering, and that this terminology using religious liberty, the laws that we've seen, like the one that the Texas governor just signed, we saw it blow up in Indiana. We've seen it not work in other places, but they say that those words now, religious liberty or religious freedom, are just a cloak for bigotry and hate.
Yeah. Well, these incendiary words are dragged out. But look at the Hobby Lobby case. I mean, this was a unique case, as you know, because you covered it, where an exception had to be carved out for, in this case, a business with deeply held religious beliefs when it came to contraceptives being offered in their health insurance plan. I think a lot of evangelical leaders are looking at this as inevitable, that the Supreme Court will, in fact, strike down laws restricting marriage between men and women. But I think what the court has to do then, if it's going to do this, is say, okay, where is the line then? If equal protection covers gays, lesbians, transgenders, and the rest, what about the polygamists? Some of their groups have already said that after same-sex marriage is approved, they want polygamy approved. And even further out, the adult child marriage people, men especially, who want to marry young boys or young girls, as occurs in some Muslim countries, by the way, they want their rights too. So who's going to say no, and based on what?
Well, and that came up during the Supreme Court arguments about this, not the extent of the adult-child relationships, but conversations about polygamy and those kinds of things. And people will say, it's a crazy, slippery slope. Yeah. You're just trying to scare people, but that's never going to happen.
Well, where's the standard? I mean, if it's not the Constitution, if it's not Scripture, where is the standard? You walk into the supermarket, there are pounds, there are quarts, there are standards by which you measure produce and how much you're going to pay when you go out based on how many tomatoes you have and how much they weigh. What if we did away with those standards? It would be totally chaotic. And so I think a lot of Americans want to know, especially those in the conservative, evangelical, Catholic Church and Orthodox Jewish friends, where is the line now? If you're going to repeal something that has been part of human history for thousands of years, what's the new standard, and according to whom?
I did think it was interesting that a number of the justices brought that up, talking about it was only really within the last 10 to 15 years that we've seen this concept of same-sex marriage be embraced by different countries and some states. And important to remember, even though there are 30-plus states that embrace it, only 11 have done by some kind of vote by the people or their legislature. 25 of them have roughly been done because courts have told them. And I know some justices want to see the states let it play out themselves. But at the end of the day, most court watchers think the court is going to strike state bans on same-sex marriage. Do you think that we find some middle ground where those who have religious convictions are able to not only serve as pastors but run their businesses and coexist with those who will then enjoy the right to same-sex marriage?
Yes, well, I hope so. They can have the right now in civil ceremonies, and there are churches that perform it. But the activists, who are not all of the gay, lesbian, transgender community, there are activists among them. There are others who just want to be left alone to do their own thing. The activists all want to come into the churches, they want to come into the synagogues, and they want to demand that in their Christian schools and in their pulpits and in their teaching and in their Bible study material that they legitimize this kind of thing. Now, that violates conscience, and Thomas Jefferson spoke about that somebody who would violate the religious conscience of a person, that's tyranny.
Well, they are, and you note Christian leaders and evangelicals. There are others, including Jewish groups and other religious leaders of different faiths that are signing on to this as well.
Right.
So we'll see. We get opinions again at 10 o'clock tomorrow. I wouldn't expect this one, but we could, and we'll see how it plays out. Cal,
Thanks.
always good to see you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thanks for coming
Stay
on.
here. Thanks.